Old school riders, new school riders, need to go to school riders. Where do these terms even come from? Who comes up with this stuff? It doesn't matter. This isn't an etymology class. We don't care about all those big fancy words and how they got here. We care about motorcycles, the old vroom vroom, the two-wheeled death machines, Italian stallions, Ducati biscottis, Turbo Busas, the most patrician of bikes. Speaking of Turbo Busas, we have massive news here on the channel. We officially have merch. That's right. You asked for it, we provided it. We've got Make Busas Great Again hats, Turbo Busa or Die shirts, and a whole lot more. Rep the coolest shirts on the block by clicking the link below and getting started. Seriously, we finally have merch. We have listened to you, and it's a Turbo Busa related thing. Now, let's get back into it. We may not know exactly how the terms came to be, but regardless of whether we like it or even understand it, there is a distinct set of subcultures within the motorcycle community. And they are as different as night and day, black and white, cats and dogs, my friends. I'm not talking about a subculture based necessarily on the type of bike you ride, though there are definitely some sects out there dedicated solely to cruisers, super sports, etc. What I'm talking about is a subculture of mentality, the old school versus the new school biker generation. It's kind of like comparing baby boomers and millennials. There's some clear-cut differences between the two, but at the end of the day, we're all people. You've got old school riders and new school riders, and at the end of the day, we're all just riders. It's important to keep that in mind because it's pretty easy to start falling into the habit of judging or excluding other riders because they don't fall into the same category as you. So please, try to remember that regardless of whether you agree with someone's taste in motorcycles, gear, etc., we're all part of one big happy family that is motorcycles. Except for trikes. Those are not motorcycles, and you are free to exclude yourself from them and judge them all you want. Rossi's Law. Let's start with a look at the old school rider. If the phrase conjures up images of hardcore looking old guys in leather vests, half helmets, and tasseled Harleys, you're not too far off. A common misconception about the old school rider is that they tend to be, well, old, and that's not necessarily the case. While there's certainly some stereotypes that hold true, I like to think the old school rider is more of a state of mind than anything else. Not all old school riders are going to be as hardcore as what you see on TV shows like Sons of Anarchy or members of Hell's Angels, etc., even though those guys like to think that they are, but there are some similarities there. When it comes to the actual motorcycles, that is. Old school riders are part of the riding stereotype created by Harley-Davidson's marketing teams all the way back in the early 1900s, and rightfully so, some might say. HD was only one of 2 American motorcycle companies to survive the Great Depression, so it seems pretty natural that they would focus on branding that's all about being tough. It also explains their recent change in tactics, but that's a story for another day. To be honest, if you saw my video on what Harley needs to do if it wants to survive this next generation of motorcyclists, they need to massively change course on their marketing. Old school riders have a habit of not wearing the most protective gear, if any. Their gear of choice is typically a half helmet, if they wear one, a leather vest, again, if they wear one, and maybe a pair of riding boots. What I've found is that the old school rider focuses a lot more on the aesthetics and the message his gear sends, where the new school riders tend to focus less on aesthetics and more on performance, quality, and safety, even though I have seen guys at shops getting real gung-ho about what kind of red leather stitching is on their Dainese. One thing I want to make clear though is that for those guys and girls out there who are riding around with half helmets and fashion leather rather than true abrasion resistant gear or full face helmets, that's a risky game to play. Most helmet impacts are going to hit your lower skull, and fashion leather becomes tissue paper when it meets asphalt going 45 miles per hour. So in Papa Yam's professional opinion, this is one aesthetic you might want to skip out on. But why is that? What happened in the last century to create such a clear divide between these 2 generations of riders? The good old internet. That's right. The internet has been a complete game changer, as if anyone really needed to know that. Old school riders were primarily limited to information provided via propaganda, ad copy, and Mad Men style advertising. They were also limited to what their buddies in local towns were wearing. They couldn't queue up a video of some full leather wearing squid in Switzerland ripping around some curvy mountain road. Their perception of what riding could be was extremely limited. Hell, they couldn't even really understand how people would get down in different states. Those marketing tactics are still used by some today, but audiences have access to a plethora of information online, where they can access it immediately thanks to the advent of smartphones. New school riders have an advantage over the stuck-in-their-old-ways school riders: education. Now that information is so accessible, riders can take deep dives into things like the nitty-gritty of why gear really is important. We've also had an education in inclusivity, acceptance of others, and tolerance. That might sound like a bit of a reach, but it's pretty well known that old school riders are not the most welcoming to newcomers who don't present the same image they do. It's sad, but it's true. Show up on a roadster to a group ride or a festival, etc. Get prepared to hear all about your lady bike or how you need to get a real man's bike. Show up in full gear with an actual full-face helmet on. Get ready to hear about how you actually learned to ride that thing. You wouldn't need all that sissy stuff. Which, as a side note, it's the absolute stupidest thing I can think of that I've actually heard guys on Harleys and half helmets tell me that a helmet is an absolutely useless accessory because if you crash, you'll probably die anyways. Tell that to my ride that saved my life in my crash. I can guarantee you I'd be dead if it wasn't for that helmet. On the flip side, new school riders will show up to a bike rally, meetup, whatever, and appreciate all the different bikes that have come together. Will the new school rider like all the bikes he or she sees? Probably not, but the interesting thing here is that even if he doesn't like a bike, they can probably still find something to appreciate about it. Whether it's the internet or local motorcycle safety courses, new school riders have successfully turned riding into a craft. At least I would hope so. Along with changing the aesthetic and mindset that goes along with motorcycle life, new school riders are working towards perfecting the craft of both riding and building motorcycles. It's pretty astonishing, really. Where old school riders focus on image and riding essentially to spread that image, new school riders have opened the door to focusing on the ride itself. There are hours and hours of GoPro footage from riders out there who are posting to help you hone advanced riding techniques. You've got YouTube channels like Yammie Noob to help you figure things out, and when you sign up for advanced riding courses, people are no longer making fun of you. Not for the new school riders anyways. I remember when I signed up for my first motorcycle safety course, the one you need to take to get your motorcycle license. Nothing fancy, just a basic intro course. I told an older guy about it and how excited I was to spend my weekend working towards my riding. He told me that motorcycle classes were a waste of time and that real riders knew that all you needed to do to ride a motorcycle was hit the road. That's the most definitive example I can give to you of an old school rider versus a new school rider, and it's a primary example of why these schools of riding are not exclusively a generational thing. It is 100% a mindset thing. If I say the word school one more time, I'm gonna lose it. If you fall into the new school rider crowd, congratulations. Chances are you're a fairly decent human being with a pretty open mind. Or maybe you're a complete turd of a person. I don't know. Who can really say? I mean, still, to this day, you have no idea if I'm an actual person or simply a sentient dog who creates all of this content. Who can say? But the odds are that you are open to improvement, to change, and to learning new things. And those are all positives. If you find yourself on the opposite end of the spectrum, identify more as a old school rider, consider where that ideology came from. Are you really that intolerant of others? Is your way really the only right way? Don't forget that we are all in this for the same thing, the thrill of the ride and the thrill of twisting that throttle. Even if we don't all agree on how we get there, we are a brotherhood. Except for trikes. They can go after themselves. Alright, baby yams, that's gonna do it for today's video. Remember to hit that subscribe button and throw me a like if you liked this video, and if you didn't like it, then you can really stick it to me by smashing subscribe, ringing the notifications bell, and telling me off in the comment section below. And just don't get carried away. My ego is an incredibly fragile thing. Speaking of ego, do us both a solid and hop over on the link below and get yourself a Turbo Busa or Die shirt. Seriously, how else will you tell your friends and family that you supported some weirdo guy on the internet who wants to make these strange things? And you guys already know, this video wouldn't be complete without me mentioning our Patreon. It started out as our beginner bike giveaway, and we still do that. We've got the KTM RC390 up for grabs, but really it's grown to be one of the best communities for motorcyclists on the internet. Imagine a safe place where you can come learn about bikes, ask questions, see exclusive content, and hang out with me. That's what our Discord server is. It's a chat room you can access on desktop or mobile, and it works just like Slack or TeamSpeak. Join over 565 members who have signed up. We've got channels specifically for new riders, bike purchases, memes, and more. Oh yeah, you get additional chances to win the bike and you're automatically entered for free. You'll get access to streams, polls to help us decide what you want to do to the bikes, and more. We also do a $100 weekly gift card giveaway drawing for our members. Watch our weekly It Came From Craigslist videos to see how that works. So join us in creating the best exclusive motorcycle community on the internet. Hit the link below or go to patreon.com/YammieNoob to get started. Thanks again for watching. I'll catch you guys next time. See you later. Fact: in the 16th and 17th centuries, anyone caught drinking coffee in Turkey was put to death. What? Turkish coffee, anyone? Anyone? Goodbye.